Welcome to Plimsolls to Platforms Episode 10. Join us as we survey the style of Sean P. Diddy Coombs. Find out why Dior is a byword for elegance. Celebrate Grace Kelly's legendary beauty. And find out where the fashion magazine world is headed. For more than 60 years, luxury retailer Christian Dior has been dressing discerning women in sleek, expensive creations at the cutting edge of fashion. Founded by French artist Christian Dior in 1946, the House of Dior became famous for the hourglass silhouette of the new look. The style rejected the austerity of the war years and incorporated a voluptuous feminine aesthetic. Instead of practical trousers and tailored skirts made from hard-wearing fabrics, women were encouraged to embrace the frivolity of yards of tulle and satin. And they eagerly acceded, buying Dior products in such volume that the label soon made up half of France's haute couture exports. French fashion designer Christian Lacroix remembers his grandfather taking him and his cousins aside after dinner and asking what they wanted to be when they grew up. "I'd say Christian Dior," he said. "He was so famous in France at the time. It seemed as if he wasn't a man, but an institution." And the label he founded remains an institution, even to this day.
The ultimate classic French house, but I think that with Galliano at the helm, it has this kind of like funkiness as well, so it's a great kind of cocktail of old and new.
I thought it was amazing. The music, the models, the costumes, the design, it was amazing.
I think Galliano is really imaginative and has such a great spirit. And I love what he's done at Dior.
I'm wearing all Dior, even under this, but if I took it off, I'd freeze.
And is this your first show in Paris?
It's my second. My first one was like 5 years ago. It was the Yves Saint Laurent show Tom Ford was designing.
And what's fashionable to you? What's important?
For me, anything that's comfortable. For me, anything that I enjoy wearing and that I could run around in all night and be happy.
Chief designer John Galliano oversees today's Dior designs. Being a Gibraltar-born Brit, the appointment initially caused controversy, with some fashion insiders disappointed that a Frenchman wasn't given the post. But Galliano has proved he has enough Gallic sensibility to please even the harshest critics. As one commentator said, Galliano has a creative talent very close to that of Christian Dior. He has the same extraordinary mixture of romanticism, feminism, and modernity that symbolized Mr. Dior. In all of his creations, his suits, his dresses, one finds similarities to the Dior style. In the highly competitive world of top-class fashion, Galliano's strength is his ability to dial up the glamour quotient and spark headlines with his outrageous shows.
I think that words are not eloquent enough. It was like walking into an amazing museum and seeing the works of the greats. I mean, but it's one man, and his collection was unbelievable. It was so inspiring. I really did sit there the entire time like this.
I love John's sort of flamboyance and theatricality and making women really feel at the best they can possibly feel. And he's ours. He's a Brit export.
But Galliano's flamboyant antics have not pleased everyone. Eyebrows were raised when he staged a show that used homeless people as its inspiration. Models paraded down the catwalk in hobo chic outfits, expensive tatters of velvet and lace. The character of designer Magatu, who shows a derelict homeless fashion show in the satire Zoolander, is thought to be based on Galliano. But Galliano himself claimed he wasn't trying to be offensive. "I never wanted to make a display of misery," he said, "nor did I intend a sociological collection to document deprivation in the street." Instead, inspiration for the show came from turn-of-the-century Paris, where there was a craze for wealthy people to go to costume balls dressed as paupers. But even if it had been pointed out to Galliano that boho chic could be taken the wrong way, it's unlikely he would have listened. The designer has a reputation for autocratic behaviour, a fact that was confirmed by his creative collaborator Amanda Harlick when she dared to disagree with him. "I did only once, and can only compare it to being hit by a massive surfing wave. His indifference was absolute," she said. Galliano loves to inject theatricality into his shows for Dior, contrasting the beautiful French tailoring with over-the-top themes and outrageous concepts. His gowns pay homage to Christian Dior's effortless chic, as well as reflecting his quirky neo-modern take on couture. But fabric, and lots of it, is still the key to the Dior look. Galliano's also famous for the extended runway farewells that put him firmly in the limelight. Not for him the bashful waves of some designers. Galliano dresses up in his own designs and parades down the catwalk, revelling in the acclaim.
He's a very, well, you know, magical person, John. And he's an artist, and he's inspired by other artists. So his shows always have that touch of inspiration, very baroque, very theatrical, very glamorous. It's sort of a dream come true, you know, that one can be inspired by, and it's sort of uplifting in these dark times, you know. It's good that there are people who still make us dream.
And Dior certainly allows women to dream. Thanks to the great John Galliano, exquisite dresses that inspired a war-weary world still inspire us today. In her crisp white apron and practical dress, the 50s housewife is an iconic figure. When the Second World War ended, women were enticed to leave the workforce and head back to the kitchen to free up their jobs for men. And to make sure enough Americans were buying the products manufactured by the expanded workforce, advertising extolled the delights of consumerism. The 50s housewife was the main target of this advertising, and the concept of the domestic goddess was born. She was a woman who could cook the right dish for every occasion, bringing joy to her husband and children and finding fulfillment in perfect housekeeping. The 50s housewife had little time to focus on her own adornment, as she was busy with daily chores, hanging out the clothes or cleaning the house. She was not expected to have any aspirations other than supporting her family. However, she sometimes pined for glamour and an easier life, often entering competitions to win luxury goods, such as a Rolls-Royce. Money tended to be spent on items for her husband and children rather than herself, and many housewives made do with the same clothes for years. However, such self-sacrifice came at a cost, and large numbers of women visited doctors to get medication for depression, Valium being the most popular choice. It wasn't until Betty Friedan published the best-selling Feminine Mystique in 1963 that society saw the importance of allowing women their own sense of identity. While there has been a resurgence of women looking for fulfillment from their domestic tasks, the difference is that today's women have more choices than their mothers and grandmothers, and certainly more options in their wardrobe. Impeccably dressed and a lady from head to toe, it was Grace Kelly's poise and dignity that stood out to actor Gary Cooper when he met her on the set of her first film. "She's different from all these sex bombs we've been seeing so much of," he said approvingly, and secured her the role of his wife in the Western classic High Noon. Kelly's fresh blonde beauty captivated the public, and she became one of Hollywood's best-loved actors. While other women of her time were experimenting with more casual dress, Kelly was rarely seen without a fashionable hat and elegant white gloves. Despite her film earnings and the fortune she inherited from her father, Kelly did not go overboard with fashion, although she adored clothes. A lovely green frock she wore to the Oscars also did duty at the premiere of Rear Window and adorned her on the cover of Vogue magazine. Kelly had very strong opinions about her film wardrobes, working closely with costume designer Edith Head on her 3 Hitchcock films. For Dial M for Murder, all except one dress was straight off the rack, carefully chosen for colour and fit according to the tenseness of the scene. Head later said, "I have never worked with anybody who had a more intelligent grasp of what we were doing."
Well, this year marked the 25th anniversary of the passing of Princess Grace, and certainly for all of us in Monaco, it has been a time to pause and to reflect on the remarkable legacy of this extraordinary woman. And it was the wish of Prince Albert that a special tribute be organized in her memory.
In Rear Window, Kelly insisted that she wear a negligee for the climactic scene, rather than the red velvet dress Hitchcock envisaged. She prevailed. When Kelly and Head went shopping in Paris for her To Catch a Thief wardrobe, they went a little overboard at Hermes, causing Head to quip that gloves and shoes are the only things where Grace loses count of money. Kelly married Monaco's Prince Rainier in 1956, wearing an ivory dress created by Hollywood designer Helen Rose of MGM Studios. For her honeymoon, she took 7 evening gowns, 6 cocktail dresses, 16 day dresses, and a number of suits, coats, furs, shoes, and of course, many hats and pairs of gloves. The marriage ended Kelly's film career, but she was a natural as the consort to Monaco's crowned head. She became a loving mother to their 3 children and was adored by Monaco's subjects.
Prince Rainier and Princess Grace really transformed the Principality of Monaco into an international center for business and for the arts. She brought, of course, a cool beauty, grace and intelligence to Monaco, but she also brought a sense of purpose. And our country will still remember the imprint of her presence and the heartache of her absence.
Kelly herself did not believe in being a slave to fashion. "I think it is important to see the person first and the clothes afterwards," she once said. But her innate elegance shines through in her wardrobe of clothes, many of which are now displayed in museums around the world. Kelly's favourite designers included former boyfriend Oleg Cassini, Christian Dior, and French high fashion house Hermes. When pregnant with her first child, she used a large Hermes tote to cover the telltale bump. That bag became known as the Hermes Kelly and is still in huge demand. Kelly's tragic death in a car accident, aged only 52, shocked the world. But her style lives on in her greatest films, still acclaimed as among Hollywood's best. For Sean P. Diddy Combs, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that bling. The New York-born musician first shot to fame as a rapper, but he's since branched out into music producing, acting, and most importantly, fashion design. In addition to the Grammys and MTV awards his music has garnered him, Coombs' Sean John clothing line won him a Council of Fashion Designers of America award. Despite a checkered past that included being charged with gun possession and bribery, for which he was later acquitted, Coombs has always appeared stylish and in control. Like other dapper rappers, Coombs likes to pair his bling with sharp suits, polished shoes and ties, referencing 30s gangsters and the classy dressing of the jazz age. The Sean John label, named for Coombs' real-life moniker, mixes sophisticated styling with urban street cred, much like the gentleman himself. Coombs said a clothing line was something he'd always been interested in, and that 1998 was the right time to launch it. But it hasn't always been smooth sailing for the musician turned designer, with allegations in 2003 that the company was using factories that violated Honduran labour laws. Coombs quickly addressed the problem, telling reporters he was as pro-worker as they get, and forcing the factories to make changes. Coombs' fashion label includes sportswear, tailored suits, accessories, shirts, ties, hats and denim. Marketed at boys and men aged 12 to 45, Sean John aims to continue expanding. "We're not in the clothing business for a quick hit," Coombs said. "We are truly committed to the expansion and growth of the men's marketplace, and would ultimately like to have Sean John viewed as the future of fashion." Despite the rise of the internet, glossy magazines are still hugely popular with lovers of fashion. Readers and advertisers alike love the full-page spreads that showcase the most beautiful the fashion world has to offer. London magazine Spruce took a novel approach at its launch, appealing to both men and women, a tactic that had never been tried before. Editor Tyler Brule said he thought it was a natural evolution.
Men and women do not shop in monasteries or convents. I think that part of the excitement of going out and purchasing clothing is, men looking at women, women looking at men, and that whole sort of free zone that you get when you're in a great department store. I think the same thing had to be played out in a magazine as well, and that's exactly what we tried to do with Spruce.
A global magazine, Spruce keeps readers abreast of fashion trends around the world. It's aimed at the 30-plus demographic, a market with high disposable income and a strong opinion about what they like or don't like. The magazine aims to present the world's newest trends.
I think the aim of Spruce magazine is really told on the cover line, which is turn heads, set the tone, be informed, have it first. And I think all of that plays into the sense of optimism, that you really, I think you want to go out, look your best. I think you do not want to go out to a party, show up at the office looking the same as someone else. So the magazine really provides a point of difference.
Another publication looking to provide a point of difference is Asiana magazine. It was created by veteran media magnate Sawar Ahmed, who saw that the fashion needs of young British Asian women were not being catered for in existing magazines. Focusing on fashion and contemporary styles, the magazine reflects the multiculturalism of modern British life, mixing traditional with cutting edge, much like the women themselves.
Asiana is aimed at 16 to 35-year-old British Asian women. There's no specific message. We're not trying to fight a cause or anything like that. The main message is that we're here, we're part of British Asian society and British society as a whole. And we have our own culture, our own fashion, our own food, our own interests, and those things are there to be promoted, which aren't being currently catered for by any other magazine.
Ahmed has been interested to see that some of Asiana's readers are not Asian, showing the broadness of international fashion's appeal.
One of the major things that we've seen with Asiana from the early sales reports is the fact that a lot of non-Asian people are buying it, and I think that's predominantly to do with the mixing of cultures that's taking place in Britain today, and also the huge interest in Asian fashion, which has crossed over now into the mainstream.
He's looking to push the bar higher for Asian magazines.
British Asian magazine market has grown phenomenally in the last 5 years, and one of the main reasons behind Asiana's launch is to provide a new level of quality, both in terms of the fashion and features that we run, but also in terms of the distribution, which is essential for us. We need that magazine available everywhere, and that's something that we've been very successful at.
The next big thing for magazines is the mini spin-off, as epitomised by the Daily Mini, an offshoot of Fashion Insider magazine, The Daily. With glamorous Australian supermodel Gemma Ward as its first cover girl, the magazine launched in New York to wide acclaim.
Obviously it's, landmark first cover, so it's always great to be there when it starts and be supportive from the beginning. I've always been a huge fan of The Daily from Fashion Week, and it always makes me laugh. It's always very light and very, very informative, so it's a real honour.
A weekly release, the new mag focuses on up-to-the-minute, behind-the-scenes fashion news. Even models like Gemma Ward like to read the hottest goss. With so many fashion stalwarts becoming household names, it appears people have an insatiable appetite for all things fashionable. From the designers to the models, everyone wants to know what's really going on and what's going to happen next. The Daily Mini fills that gap.
Well, it's something that is bringing something different to fashion, so it's very important. It's something that is opening us up to, a different way of reporting and a different way of viewing fashion, and that's always something that you need to look forward to because it's about the future.
The Daily Mini can be found on newsstands in the New York area.